Hello, and welcome back to Who Knew? At the time of recording this, 2020 has been a complete rollercoaster ride. Many people probably wouldn't be too surprised if tomorrow NASA were to inform us of an alien fleet on the edge of our solar system heading this way. While I, for one, would welcome our new interstellar overlords, all hail Lord Xenu, in today's video we're going to take a look at why alien invasion should rank fairly low on your list of concerns. Let me set the scene. You're in the middle of nowhere. It's the dead of night. There's no moon in the sky, just you and the millions of stars above. You can't help but look up and wonder. Don't worry, this isn't the start of some trashy horror movie. I'm just being overly dramatic. At some point though, you've likely looked up at the night sky and thought, there's just got to be life out there somewhere, right? Well, let's run the numbers and see what the odds actually are. The observable universe is approximately 90 billion light years in diameter. Within that, there is approximately 100 billion galaxies. These galaxies contain approximately 1,000 billion stars. So far so good, right? But we run into a bit of a problem. Due to the expansion of the universe, we're actually rather limited in how far we'll ever be able to travel. Effectively, we're limited to the galaxies in our immediate vicinity, otherwise known as our local group. Even then, it would still take us millions if not billions of years to reach even our closest galactic neighbour. Bad news for all those wanting to travel to a galaxy far, far away. With that said, let's focus on something a little more manageable, our Milky Way. Within our home galaxy, there are approximately 400 billion stars. That's roughly 10,000 for every grain of sand on Earth. Of these 400 billion, approximately 20 billion are like our Sun. Scientists estimate that about 5% of these Sun-like stars may contain planets within the habitable or Goldilocks zone. This is the area around a star where liquid water can exist. Not so hot that it'll turn to steam, also cold that it'll freeze. Going with these numbers, if only 0.1% of these Earth-like planets within habitable zones orbiting Sun-like stars have life, that would give us roughly 1 million planets with life, just in our galaxy alone. Wow, I hear you say, alien life must be everywhere. Well yes, it could be, but we're not done yet. It's a very Earth-centric idea to imagine that the rest of the universe evolves at the same pace as us humans. The Milky Way itself is approximately 13 billion years old, and although for the first few billion years things wouldn't have been ideal for life to evolve, once the planet started to form, there was a period of about 7 billion years before Earth even arrived on the scene. Because of this, there's a chance that billions or even trillions of Earth-like planets may have formed and developed before our own. Even if one of these had spawned a species capable of intergalactic colonization, it's highly likely we would have come across signs of it by now. However, to get an idea of what type of civilization that might look like, we need to digress a little and talk about the Kardashev Scale. This scale was put forward by the Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev and basically breaks things down into 3 categories. A civilization reaches type 1 when it has the ability to utilize all of the available energy on its home planet. For all you people out there who are curious, we're currently sitting at about a 0.7. That's not too bad considering we only invented the steam engine back in 1698. If everything goes well though, we should reach type 1 within the next couple of hundred years. A Type 2 civilization would be one that has the ability to harness all of the power from its home star. This might involve some kind of megastructure like a Dyson sphere. Comment below if you'd like to know more about these theoretical megastructures. Finally, we have a Type 3 civilization, which would be able to draw upon all of the energy from its home galaxy. Okay, I hear you say, just because a civilization reaches Type 3, what makes you think we would come across it? Space is a huge place after all. Well, with a little thought experiment, we can answer that question. Let's say we humans can build spaceships capable of sustaining a large enough population for up to 1,000 years. With those ships, we would likely be able to colonize the entire galaxy in approximately 2 million years. Now, although that seems like a pretty long time, it's really not in the galactic sense. If lowly humans could theoretically achieve this, and there's been billions of planets potentially containing life on them which have had a huge head start, we've really got to ask ourselves, where the hell are all the aliens? Well, that, my friends, is the Fermi Paradox. One answer, of course, is that they're just giving us our space. All joking aside, we actually do have some ideas. To begin with, let's talk about filters, or in this case, great filters. In the case of the Fermi Paradox, a filter constitutes a barrier or event that all life will have to overcome should it survive long enough. This applies to all forms of complex life, including us. On the more optimistic or positive end, perhaps there are great filters, but they're behind us. It could be that the conditions for complex life to form need to be so perfect that we're extremely lucky to be here at all. This could mean we're unique and potentially the first, or at least the most advanced planet in our universe. I'm not quite sure if that's something we should be proud of or not. On the other hand, perhaps there are great filters, but they're actually ahead of us. If this is our situation, we should be worried. Perhaps there are or have been many planets like ours in the universe, but none have managed to pass a particular problem. The most troubling part is that it could be anything too. Technological, ecological, or even biological. We could be on the verge of discovering some promising new technology with the goal of improving our existence. However, when the time comes to activate it, there's just a big flash of light, a lot of heat, and then there's no more planet Earth. Alternatively, perhaps all life that reaches our level has to overcome climate changes brought on by their own advancements. Burning fossil fuels was an essential part of our technological development, but there are better ways, and eventually we will need to change things. There's an amazing TED talk by the astronomer and cosmologist Sir Martin Rees. He explains that it's only been during this last century where we've been able to shape our environment on a planet-wide scale, for better or worse. Anyway, for all we know, there could be some grandiose Type 3 civilization overseeing our Milky Way, and anytime a young upstart rises through the planetary ranks, these godlike beings just swoop in and snub them out. Another issue we have relates to time. We believe that there's been life on our planet for about 3.6 of its 4 billion years. Humans have only been on the scene for approximately 200,000 years of that. It was only about 500 years ago we started to agree that the Earth moves around the Sun. Some might say better late than never. Roughly 200 years ago we advanced to using mechanical power over organic, and it's been less than a century since we've had the ability to communicate over long distances. In the grand scheme of things, we've barely gotten started. Perhaps our communications simply aren't advanced enough, and so we're just undetectable. For example, someone trying to commute with a Gen Z via Morse code. That's just not going to work. And even if we could send and receive messages with aliens, there's a good chance they just wouldn't understand our ways. Imagine talking to a prehistoric human. All they need to survive is food and shelter. The App Store would be completely incomprehensible to them. Just to clarify things here, we would likely be the prehistoric humans in that situation. Another way of looking at this paradox is to consider that there are advanced aliens out there who are content with just keeping to themselves, at least for the time being. Consider the Sakoku period of Japanese isolationism. Prior to this, Japan had a strong exploratory attitude. Perhaps these aliens have other priorities. If they have the ability to live lives of luxury and comfort, why would they want to go to the trouble of exploring the galaxy? An advanced enough civilization could potentially build a giant supercomputer similar to that of a Dyson sphere called a Matryoshka brain. They could then upload their consciousness to the computer and live a utopian life inside of a simulation. Finally, there's the more morbid idea that they've just all died out. I mean, after all, 99% of all life that's evolved on Earth has gone extinct. This could just be the way things play out. Extinction either naturally or self-inflicted. Regardless, one thing is for sure. Although we've been looking, we simply have no evidence to support the idea of life elsewhere, despite what you might have heard from some crazy-haired guy on the History Channel. And that's probably a good thing. Numerous scientists, Stephen Hawking included, have warned against making ourselves known to any advanced civilizations out there, and with good reason too. Currently, the only experiment we have to go on is our own planet and its history. When we look back at our past, at every point at which a more advanced group comes across a less advanced group, things just don't work out well for the latter. Still, this doesn't mean we should stop reaching for the stars. The work that governments and private companies are doing to land humans on other planets is immensely important. We don't know if we're alone, but we need to act as though we are. The only way to help ensure that happens is to strive for that mythical Type 3 title. It's not going to be easy, and it won't happen quickly. Likely we'll be long gone by the time the first Martians are born. And it's important to keep these long-term goals in mind, now more than ever. In today's world, we're too accustomed to instant gratification, and so it's difficult to think of projects that span generations. This time, our history can come as a great source of optimism. The pyramids, grand castles and cathedrals, these projects were started by people who knew that they weren't going to see them completed, and yet they still did it. Colonizing Mars is going to be our grand cathedral. Visiting another star system, that's going to be our pyramids. And hey, if we come across ET in our travels, well then we can put this mystery to bed. Before we wrap this video up, I wanted to share with you one of my favourite scientific quotes. This actually comes from the previously mentioned Martin Rees and fits in nicely with today's video. The stupendous time spans of our evolutionary past are part of common culture. But most people, even those who are familiar with evolution, aren't mindful that even more time lies ahead. The sun has been shining for 4.5 billion years, but it still has another 6 billion years before its fuel fully runs out. At this point, it will swell into a red giant, and any remaining life on Earth will be vaporized. There's an unthinking tendency to imagine that humans will be there, experiencing the sun's demise. But any life and intelligence that exists then will be as different from us as we are from bacteria. The unfolding of intelligence and complexity still has immensely far to go, both here on Earth and far beyond. With that said, I really hope you found this video educational and of course entertaining. I really can't get enough of this stuff, and so if you can't either, let me know your ideas in the comment section down below. On the other hand, if you'd rather me focus on something else, that's always an option too. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for watching. There could be some grandiose Type 3 civilization overseeing our Milky Way, and anytime some yummy, some yum upstart, fucking hell.